Yes, sir. It's your boy Jelani, Goodridge Reed, and welcome into the latest edition of Read Between the Lines. That is RBTL. So be sure to follow at the RBTL show on Instagram for all of my takes and more episode updates. Also, I just want to say this real quick. If you're watching on YouTube right now, just bear with the camera. My camera's acting up today. So the lighting might be off at times, but just don't worry about all that. But if you're not watching me on YouTube, then you could hit up Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Radio Public. That's where I am with these episodes. So you could always find me on the streaming sites and the streaming platforms everywhere, right? But today I'm here to give you the breakdown. If you're watching, you see it on the screen. It says NFL playoff predictions. That is what this episode will be based on. This is the best time of the year, especially when your team is in the playoffs. And as you could tell, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. You guys know this. This is not breaking news. And we have a huge game this weekend against the Niners. But yeah, so I'm talking about the NFL playoffs this weekend and the wild card and throughout. So I'll give you my predictions all the way up to the Super Bowl. That is what I'll be breaking down today, excuse me, and also more talks on the NFL, and we have NBA talks as well. NBA starting to really pick up some steam as we're right around the All-Star break corner. It's right around the corner, so we're going to be talking about some of that, and of course the fraud watch. There is a particular team and a player on like the face of that team that is really on my mind, and I'll talk about that later. But let's get right into it. So the NFL playoffs starting this week. Okay, we have a lot to get into. So I'm going to give you my predictions for it. But actually, before I start there, I wanted to just go into the the all pro teams. The all pro teams for the NFL that came out today, actually just now. So let me dive right into it real quick. So first team all pro offense, we have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. It makes sense. Jonathan Taylor, of course. And then at the wide receiver spot, we have Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel, and then at tight end, Mark Andrews, really good player of Baltimore. And then we're looking at the O line, Trent Williams, Joel Bitonio of Cleveland. We have Jason Kelsey, Zach Martin. Shout out to my Dallas Cowboys. And lastly, we have Tristan Wirfs of the Tampa Bay Bucks. And now on the defensive side of the ball, so we have first team all pro defense of this 2021 season. We have TJ Watt, edge. We have Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Cameron Hayward, and then, of course, at the linebacker spots, we have Micah Parsons. Shout out to my Dallas Cowboys once again. Darius Leonard, Devondre Campbell of the Packers. And then looking at the secondary, once again, the Dallas Cowboys represent. We have Trayvon Diggs, Jalen Ramsey, and then the safeties, Kevin Byard of Tennessee, and then Jordan Poyer. It's funny how Poyer is on the All Pro team, not a Pro Bowler, but I mean, the All Pro team means more. And then for special teams, we have Justin Tucker, AJ Cole, Devin Duvernay, also of the Ravens. And then we have Braxton Berrios, JT Gray, and Luke Rhodes, long snapper. Shout out to you. So yeah, that is the All Pro first team for this NFL season. And let me give you actually the second team as well. Might as well. Um, Here it is here. So the second team, Tampa Bay, obviously they have the GOAT. Tom Brady, he is the quarterback representing this team. The running back spot is actually vacant. And why? Because Jonathan Taylor secured all 50 votes at the running back spot. So that's why there's not another running back to be seen here. There's no running back for the second team because of this. Tight end, we have Travis Kelce. The wide receivers, Jamar Chase. Shout out Cincinnati Bengals star Jamar Chase, and obviously JJ, Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. Left tackle, Rashawn Slater, LA Chargers. Really good rookie season for him. Right tackle, we have Lane Johnson. Left guard, Quentin Nelson of Indy. Right guard, Wyatt Teller of Cleveland. And then Corey Linsley of the Chargers represents at center. For defense, edge rushers, we have Robert Quinn of the Bears. Max Crosby, of course, of the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll see him this weekend trying to get Joe Burrow. And then interior linemen, we have Chris Jones of Kansas City and Jeffrey Simmons of Tennessee. Really underrated. Simmons is very underrated. Linebackers, Demario Davis of the Saints, underrated as well. Roquan Smith of the Bears. And then we have Bobby Wagner of the Seahawks. And then the corners, JC Jackson of the Pats and AJ Terrell. I think AJ Terrell was snubbed of the Pro Bowl. He's obviously the Falcons star corner. He's coming into his own. He's getting better and better. Look out for AJ Terrell. Safeties, Justin Simmons of Denver, Micah Hyde of Buffalo, also snubbed of the Pro Bowl. And we have Budda Baker in a tie, actually. There's a tie there, so that's why he's representing there. And then special teams, Daniel Carlson, Brian Anger, and Andre Roberts, can't even talk, Jakeem Grant, Matthew Slater, Josh Harris. So those are your all-pro teams for this 2021 NFL season. But now the real season starts. That's the NFL playoffs. So here are my picks for the wild card weekend, okay, for the spread. So for those who are betting, here are my picks. So I had the Raiders covering. I think that the number is it's a bit too much for me, especially given the fact that Joe Burrow, first playoff game ever, coming off of that knee. So we're gonna have to see how the Bengals look, in this one. And I think the Raiders, they just play really tough. They've done it all year. They find ways to not only win games that are ugly, but they find ways to just stay in every game, it seems. And I get it. They lost to the Bengals already by a lot, 32-13. But this is a whole new season, a whole new type of game. I think they cover. I don't know if they win, but they cover. Buffalo, I have. So take them. I believe in Tom Brady against the Eagles, who are 0-6 against all these playoff teams. So take the Bucks. I got the Cowboys. I was really flip-flopping on this one. I think it's going to be very close. And the likelihood is that San Fran could cover. I think Dallas is going to win the game. But yeah, San Fran, watch out. This is one of the more popular picks, but I'm going to take Dallas because I believe in Dak Prescott. Then the Chiefs, I mean, the number's a lot, 12.5. I think it was 13 before. So it's going to be very intriguing to see Big Ben. Is this his last game ever? I just don't think the Steelers have enough offensively. Defensively, they could make Patrick Mahomes a bit annoyed on the day and bother that offense and not let the offense do too much at the start. But at the end of it, I think that Big Ben, I mean, he just doesn't have enough for me. And especially given the fact that before week 18, Big Ben did not have a game. Like he had 3 straight games before week 18. He had 3 straight games where he threw for less than 160 in the air. You can't win throwing less than 160 yards. I'm sorry, not against Patrick Mahomes. And then I got the Cardinals. I think that's the nicest pick of the weekend in terms of upsets. I think that Matt Stafford, I mean, he's on notice. But yeah, with that being said, here are my picks, guys. Throughout the playoffs, if you're watching on YouTube, you will see the full bracket. But let me break it down for you. So AFC, again, I think that Cincy is going to win that game. The Bengals have not won a playoff game since 1991. Hello, is this mic on? In the words of Rob Parker, is this mic on? That was 30 years ago. Okay. And as for the Raiders, they're also in a drought. Their last playoff win was in the early 2000s, guys. The 2002 AFC Championship game. Hello, is this mic on? So both teams want to finally win a playoff game. And I think that we're going to see a party going on in Cincinnati because I think they're going to win. They just have more offensively than the Raiders do. And yes, I like Derek Carr. I think he's a guy that people look past. A lot of people, feel like he's not the guy for the Raiders. He is, guys. He's a good quarterback, but he's not that good in cold weather. Okay, he has a losing record when It's a cold weather game, and I just don't know. Like the Raiders defense, I don't know if they can contain what the Bengals have offensively. And I'm not just talking about what Joe Burrow has in terms of the passing game weaponry. When you're looking at Tyler Boyd, Higgins, and obviously Jamar Chase, I'm talking about Joe Mixon. Can they tackle Joe Mixon? Because Joe Mixon is one of the best running backs in the league, finally getting his recognition this year. A lot of people are starting to talk about him. He's been this good for a while. I don't think that the Raiders stack up. So give me the Bengals, but we see it all the time, folks. If you're looking at last year's playoffs, for example, we had plenty of upsets. Baltimore beat Tennessee. Baltimore was the lower seed. The Browns went into Pittsburgh and won. Remember that? Remember the Rams game against Seattle? Seattle was favored. They lost. This happens all the time, okay? And especially in the wild card round where we see upsets. This is a game where the Raiders Bengals where we might see an upset. Do not be surprised. That's why I have the Raiders covering. I think something fishy is going to happen on Saturday. I think something interesting is going to happen on Saturday because the Bengals, although they have a high flying offense, they've never been in this spot before. Now, not to have the Raiders, obviously, but how are the Bengals going to play as a favorite in a game like this? Okay. Joe Burrow, week of rest. Obviously, his knee. I'm really paying attention to the knee. Is it worse than we think? If not, I'm still looking at the fact that a lot of the guys on Cincy rested in week 18. How are they going to look? Because resting players, guys, as a Cowboys fan, I've seen it myself. It doesn't always work. You might rest your guys the last game of the week, come back, first game of the playoffs and lose. All right. But yeah, we'll see. I have them moving on. Spent a bit longer on that game than I wanted to, but I think that's a game, that's a trap game because the Raiders could win that game. Don't be surprised if they do. I'm being honest. Don't be surprised. We see upsets all the time, guys. But I got Buffalo over New England. I think New England poses a real threat, obviously, to the Bills. And the Bills have been owned by the Patriots since I was born, since the early 2000s. It's been, 20 years? Bill Belichick, I don't want to bet against him, but I think that here, Josh Allen, I just believe in the quarterback play. It comes down to quarterback play in the playoffs. And I'm giving it to Josh Allen here, right? They have the better team. Buffalo has no excuse. No excuse. You cannot lose to a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones. You cannot lose to the Patriots of all teams because you're telling us, the Bills want to tell us, hey, this is our division now. We won the AFC East last year. We went to the conference championship. Right? They went last year. They want to tell us all that this is their division now. And if you allow for the Patriots to come into your place and beat you with a rookie QB, man, with a guy in Josh Allen who he's not the MVP this year, but I mean, he's a good quarterback. He's one of the best in the league. People want to argue Mahomes and Allen, Allen and Herbert as we move forward, Allen versus Burrow as we move forward in the AFC. If he drops this one to the Patriots, please. And then I got the Chiefs again. I think they're going to beat the Steelers. Steelers don't have enough. So, second round, we have the Titans. We have the Bengals. Okay. Titans, everybody's sleeping on this team. I don't know why. They are the most disrespected number one seed of all time. Of all time. Or at least that I have seen, because I get it. Very vulnerable as a team. And I mean, they've been beat up. Okay. Julio Jones has been in and out of the lineup. AJ Brown, in and out of the lineup. Derrick Henry, who was on pace to be the MVP of the league. Yes, I said it, MVP. Even though it's a quarterback award, he's just gonna destroy the record this year, the rushing record. And he got hurt, so they didn't have him for the second half of the year. I get it, but they have a good team, a good nucleus. And guess what? They have great coaching. Coach of the year, Mike Vrabel. He's in Tennessee right now, guys. The coach of the year resides in Nashville. I believe the Tennessee Titans could go to the Super Bowl. They can. Things have to work out their way, but I don't know why I'm seeing all these brackets. Yeah, I know. Look at mine. I don't have them in the Super Bowl, but the disrespect, I think a lot of people don't even have them going to the conference championship game. I think they could get there and they could go to the Super Bowl. Don't be surprised if they're there. I just want to see how the foot of Derrick Henry holds up, right? Is he going to be the same guy that he was once before? If not, then it's going to be a different game. But if he is, Tennessee could beat anybody on this bracket. Okay? I'm telling you that right now. But let's move to the Buffalo game. Buffalo KC second round. Give me the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs again. Look, their defense led the charge for their win streak, right? And they have taken a bit of a step back. We saw that Denver game. It was kind of weird. But I think that in the playoffs, they're going to hold serve. And at some point, we're going to see that offense wake up of Kansas City. I'm telling you right now. At some point, it's going to come. They haven't looked like themselves all year. I still don't want Mahomes to go crazy with the ball. I think he's better when, like this year, dropping back, not doing too much, keeping the ball, don't turn the ball over. I think that the Chiefs will pick you apart at some point in this playoffs if you're a defense because they're going to wake up at some point. So give me the Chiefs in Tennessee, and then I believe the Chiefs will win that game. As long as the time of possession doesn't go to the Tennessee Titans in that one, I mean, the Chiefs will get it done. And I know the Chiefs lost to Tennessee already this year. They got slapped 27-3. But at that point, I believe that Patrick Mahomes, the offense, will be clicking. NFC, let me do this quickly. I'm talking pretty long. I want to move to more things in this episode, but I'm going with Arizona. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is, but I think Arizona is going to win this game. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. Because LA is the better team. And the likelihood is I'm wrong. Like when we're looking back at this episode, I may be wrong because the Rams are just the better team flat out. And also Arizona's beat up. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins out there. But man, something just it seems off. And I'm looking, you know who I'm looking at right now. Matthew Stafford. I told him the first episode about the 2021 season. I said to him, please do not mess this up. This is set up for you, Matt Stafford. If we're being honest, you should be in the Super Bowl. Why? Because they traded the farm. They traded the whole farm for you. All their assets, draft picks, Jared Goff. They traded all these guys to Detroit for you to bring us there, to bring us to the promised land. Jared Goff got the Rams to the Super Bowl in 2018. They believe, the Rams that is, they believe that Matthew Stafford is the answer. So with that being said, if it makes sense then, Matthew Stafford has to win the whole thing. If not, it's a disappointment. Guess what? The Super Bowl is in SoFi Stadium. Oh yeah, who plays there? I'm not thinking of the Chargers. I'm thinking of the Rams. Oh, who plays for the Rams? Oh yeah, Matthew Stafford. You have to bring the Rams the whole way. But the problem is throwing the ball to the other team isn't good. And we've seen over the course of the last few games of the regular season, Matthew Stafford has been willing to give the ball up to the opponent. He has been throwing all these interceptions at key moments in games where it leads me to believe that the Cardinals could take advantage of this moment. The pressure's all on Los Angeles right now. There's no pressure on Arizona. Maybe some pressure on Cliff Kingsbury, but there's nothing really screaming pressure on Arizona. So LA has to get this done. I don't think they're going to because quarterback mistakes from Matthew Stafford. And if they do move on to play the Green Bay Packers, I don't see them beating the Packers. If the Rams move on, I don't see them beating the Packers because I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to outplay Aaron Rodgers, right? Remember, Matt Stafford 0-3 in playoff games. So he has to get this done at some point. But I think Arizona is my upset pick. Remember, upsets happen all the time in the wild card weekend. So if it's not going to be the Vegas Raiders over Cincinnati, I'm going to go with Arizona over LA. Dallas beats San Fran. No, not being a homer. Not being a homer. But at the end of the day, I get it. San Francisco can out physical us or, run it down our throat, right? Debo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell. But at the end of the day, what did I say earlier in the show? It comes down to quarterback play in the National Football League. And when I'm looking at the two quarterbacks this weekend, heading to Dallas, classic rivalry game, I'm saying to myself, who would I rather have? Jimmy Garoppolo or Dak Prescott? I would rather have Dak Prescott because I know with Dak Prescott, he will make the extra play. It's going to come down to what quarterback makes the extra play. Dak's going to do that for me. And also, by the same token, you can look at the fact that it comes down to keeping the ball. Who is more prone to giving the ball away? That's Jimmy Garoppolo, folks. I know we saw good Jimmy Garoppolo against LA in week 18, but we have seen stretches where he's been poor this year. Multiple interception games. When he throws for an interception, the Niners do not win games. When he keeps the ball to himself, they do win games. I think this is a spot where we're seeing Jimmy G coming off of good games, and history tells us sometimes when he has good games, he follows it up with a poor game. I believe in Dak Prescott. But the Cowboys need to hold up in terms of the O-line because you think we got Michael Parsons, Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. Well, they have guys, okay? And it's not just Nick Bosa. So it's going to be a tough game, classic rivalry. Last time these guys played, 94 championship game. Obviously, San Francisco won that, but 5-2 in playoff games. The head-to-head goes to Dallas. And a lot of these games decided the Super Bowl champion, okay? In fact, I believe the last 4 times, these two teams met in the playoffs, I think it decided the Super Bowl champion. So we'll see. Tampa Bay beats Philly. This is another upset pick. Okay. I think I don't know why. And you guys know I hate Philadelphia. I hate the Eagles. But something deep down tells me this is going to be a closer game than I think. And yes, I took the Bucks on that 8.5 spread. I did. But I don't know what it is. I think this game is going to call for some wind, some rain, probably. That's what people are reporting. I don't know if it's going to be true or not. But if the elements, if Mother Nature plays a role in this game, guess who it favors? It favors the Eagles. Why? They are the best rushing team in the league. Yards per game, yards per rush. That's Philadelphia. And it's not just their running backs, it's also Jalen Hurts. So I don't know. But what they have to do in order to pull off this great upset, you got to get to Brady, like somehow, some way. And the problem is, the reason why I'm taking Tampa Bay, Tampa allows the fewest sacks in the league. And guess who has the second lowest amount of sacks in terms of rate? That is Philadelphia. So I'm going to go Tom Brady. Can't bet against him. Second round, I got Tampa over Dallas. I think that if we did meet up with them, that we say, I'm saying we as a Cowboys fan, I think we could beat Tampa Bay, but I'm not betting against Tom Brady in that spot. And I'm going to take Green Bay over Arizona. And if LA does in fact beat Arizona, I would take Green Bay anyway. Green Bay, Tampa, it seems as if it's going to happen again. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, MVP battle. Give me Aaron Rodgers here. And I think Tom Brady's the MVP, by the way. I honestly, I thought about it. Tom Brady's the MVP. Okay. I just want you guys to know that he's the MVP. But the MVP is going to go to Aaron Rodgers. So my belief is that Tom Brady should be the MVP. 44 years old, doing what he's doing, right? But it's going to go to Aaron Rodgers. That's just the reality. Okay. And I, quickly, let me just say Tom Brady leads in pass yards, touchdowns, total completions, big pass plays. Okay. So when you're leading in pass yards, touchdowns, total completions, and big pass plays at 44 years old, come on, man. Come on. And you would think you would think Aaron Rodgers leads in, a department like yards per attempt or completion percentage, but no, that's Joe Burrow actually. The only major thing that Aaron tells us in terms of all these major categories that play huge roles in deciding who the MVP becomes, passer rating. Brady has had more weapons banged up or out of the lineup throughout the year than Rodgers has had. I get it. The Packers have been the more beat up team, right? Look at their defense. A lot of guys out. Smith. You're looking at Alexander, for example. Offensively, Bakhtiari. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had all his weapons throughout the year. Tom Brady, though, he didn't have Gronkowski. At times with the AB drama, no Antonio Brown, right? Injury to Chris Godwin, and still. So, hey, I got Tom Brady, but in a game, though, I do point to what I just said. Godwin's not here. AB is not here. Antonio Brown, that is. So I know Tom Brady's gone to the Super Bowl and won it in New England with less talent than he has right now at his disposal in Tampa Bay. Because remember, Leonard Fournette is coming back, right? But this is the year. This is the year for Aaron Rodgers. This has to be the year. If you don't get through this, let me put myself on the screen right now. If Aaron Rodgers does not get this done, I don't want to hear any more talk about him being the GOAT. A lot of people say Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT. Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. Is he more talented as a passer than Tom Brady? Yes. We know that. That's where a lot of people's arguments come in. But there are several people out there that believe Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback to ever play. Show me something then. Because looking at this bracket right now, what team is better than Green Bay this year? None. This is set up for Aaron Rodgers to at least reach the Super Bowl. Hello, is this mic on? He's been 1-4 in championship games. He is 0-4 in his last 4. May I remind you about Seattle, Atlanta, San Francisco, when they got slapped and Jimmy Garoppolo didn't even throw a pass, it seemed. Last year, 2020, NFC Championship game against the great Tom Brady. You lost. Okay. This is not the same Bucs team from last year. This is a worse version of them. This is a more beat up version of the Bucs. The Cowboys, yes, they could stack up with the Packers in terms of physicality, in terms of weaponry. But quarterback play, it's huge. Dak, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to lean Aaron Rodgers. And I'm a Cowboys fan. I just got to say it. You're going to lean Aaron Rodgers. It's common sense. Arizona, I mean, yes, they could battle with them. They could play close. Packers have the edge. There. Eagles, I don't see them getting out of the first round. But, and I know the Packers struggle against the run. I understand that. And if the Eagles somehow matched up with them, it would be a long day in that area. But It's Aaron Rodgers. The Rams, they do have the talent. They do have the talent, but I can't see the Rams going to Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The frozen tundra, I can't see it happening where Aaron Rodgers loses to the Rams, to Matt Stafford, who he's owned. Look at the history that they had when Matthew Stafford was in Detroit. Remember those days? Yeah. The Packers would always take care of Matthew Stafford. So that's Aaron Rodgers. That is the field. So you cannot lose yet another championship game. It can't happen. I'm not even a Packers fan. It can't happen. Because if it does happen again, we're going to be like, okay, what is going on here? This is set up for you. This is probably, honestly, I'm being honest, since he won the Super Bowl in 2010, feels ancient now. But since then, have we seen a more clear path to the Lombardi Trophy than we see right now? No, we have not, ladies and gentlemen. We have not. So I'm asking Aaron Rodgers, you need to get this done. You're talking about MVP. Everybody talking about MVP Aaron Rodgers. You need to get this done because if he does, and especially if he wins, not only reaches the Super Bowl, but if he wins, his legacy goes up a notch because we could definitely put him in the Mount Rushmore. Right now, it's not sold. I'm not really convinced yet because there are guys like John Elway. People make the case for Drew Brees. People make the case for Brett Favre, Roger Staubach. You know, there are plenty of quarterbacks that are in this conversation because we know who the three are on the Mount Rushmore. That's Brady, that's Montana, that's Manning. But who's the fourth guy? Aaron Rodgers needs to get this done because look at the bracket, guys. Look at the bracket. Who is better than Green Bay? Green Bay is the best team in football. It's easy to admit that. And if they don't get it done, especially against Brady, man, I'm telling you, wow. Wow, wow, wow. It's like, where do we go from here? You have the best team. This is the best roster Aaron Rodgers has had. Yeah. When healthy, this is the best one since the Super Bowl year. I believe that. And or you could say 2011 as well. But man, I don't see them losing again. But in the Super Bowl, I do see them losing. I don't see them losing again in the conference championship, but in the Super Bowl, I see them losing to Patrick Mahomes. That was my preseason pick. The Chiefs winning the Super Bowl over Tampa it was. But I'm not convinced that Tampa can get it done with all the injuries they got. But that is my bracket. That is my bracket. So Chiefs, Packers, that is my Super Bowl. Chiefs, Packers. I hope I'm right, obviously. But again, there may be some upsets this weekend. So please watch out for that. Don't always take the favorites. I know it's popular. I'm a victim of it myself right here with this bracket, but there are a few games where I could see an upset happening. That's Arizona game. I think Arizona is actually going to win that game somehow. Watch for New England against Buffalo. I do think though Buffalo's a better team, so you know, the Raiders game. The Raiders Bengals is very interesting. I think it's going to be a fun game. Don't be surprised if the Raiders pull it off. They've pulled off really great victories in ways that I just can't comprehend, given all that's happened in Las Vegas this year. So shout out to Derek Carr. Obviously, you got to point out San Francisco, Dallas. It seems like everyone's taking San Francisco. Y'all haters. And, yeah, we'll see what happens with the Eagles. But those are my playoff predictions for this season. So let's move now. By the way, this camera, man, I don't know what is going on with the lighting. It's really bothering me. I'm not gonna lie, it's bothering me. Let's move. I've gone off about this for a while, and I don't know what else to say. So Brian Flores, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Flores, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He was fired this week On Black Monday, they call it Black Monday when all the coaches get fired after the regular season ends. So he was gone. That was shocking to everybody. Shocking, given what the Dolphins managed to do and almost make the playoffs. And then we just saw Houston get rid of David Culley. David Culley, 4-13. Obviously, not the best record. Nobody's going to mistake him for Bill Parcells, but given the mess in Houston, it was very impressive to see what he managed to do with the Texans. But why am I mad? Guys, look at them. Who are they? Two African American head coaches. What have I said? Countlessly in articles, in episodes, not even on my own show. I've gone on other people's shows and gone off about this. There's a problem. There is a grave problem with the way black head coaches are treated in the National Football League. There is one. As I speak right now to you, there is one remaining. That is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is a guy who has never had a losing season. What if the Steelers ended up being under 500 this year? Maybe the Steelers would have let him go. Who knows? But given the fact that he has not had a losing season, they kept him. Okay, cool. He's the only one. Last time I checked, look at the whole league. Look at the NFL. This is a league that is 70% African American. Or let's just say it black. And yet, and still, there's one standing. Okay. And if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, there's 32 teams in the league, 3 currently as I speak right now. Because remember, there are openings right now. There are people interviewing. But as I give you this episode right now, there are only 3 teams that employ a non-white head coach. New York Jets, Robert Saleh. Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh, the only black coach. Only black head coach. And then Washington, Ron Rivera. Somebody help me out here. There's an issue. So let's give you the breakdown. So Brian Flores fired from the Dolphins. And he posted a 24-25 record. He had 3 seasons with the Dolphins these past few years, 24-25. I mean, it's just about 500. And it made no sense to us because the Dolphins finished first in takeaways in 2020, 8th this year. They've had good defense under Brian Flores. We know what he does. We know what he did in New England with those defenses. And regardless of what you want to say, oh, the Dolphins, they didn't make the playoffs. Guess what, guys? They started 1-7 and ended up finishing with 8 wins in their last 9. So they were the first team in NFL history to start 1-7 and then win 8 of its last 9 games, guys. They almost ran the table, guys. They almost made the playoffs, guys. They're going to move on from him after a 9-8 season. Miami. Remember Miami? A few years ago, we were talking about them possibly being the worst team we had ever seen. This was before the tank for Tua hashtag came about. They were terrible. Brian Flores comes in. He changes the tide. He changes everything. We're actually talking about the Dolphins being a dark horse playoff team for once. And yet, and still, Flores is out. He is a guy that should have stayed. We know this. That's why it makes no sense. The Dolphins brass makes no sense here. They're now looking for their 9th head coach since 2005. Guess what? Flores also, a nice note, he was the first Dolphins coach to sweep Bill Belichick. Nobody sweeps Bill Belichick in that division. He was the first one to sweep Bill Belichick since 2000. the first Dolphins coach to do that. Brian Flores reportedly wanted more authority over general manager Chris Greer before he got fired on Monday, right? Because they're saying that Flores wanted more control. You know, he was the voice in the building. He wanted to be the voice in the building. He wanted more control of the team and authority. You know, having final say in certain transactions and all that sort of thing. Excuse me. You know, draft, free agency. Brian Flores wanted that authority. Okay, cool. Chris Greer, also, by the way, he's one of the few. I think he's one of the few black GMs in the league. Um, Flores also, he reportedly wanted Justin Herbert in the draft. Remember that, but Greer preferred Tua Tagovailoa, right? So they got Tua, but look at what Justin Herbert's doing in LA right now. Justin Herbert is a star, becoming a superstar. Brian Flores wanted him, but GM Chris Greer, he wanted Tua. Stephen Ross, the owner, he wanted the Dolphins also to have the number one draft pick in 2020. And, more reports are coming out that, Brian Flores didn't want to tank. He wanted to get some wins, and they ended up winning, a few of the last games, and they actually looked like a real NFL team. And they ended up having the number 5 pick rather than the number 1. The number 1 was Joe Burrow, who's becoming a star in Cincinnati right now. There's so many things, but it's just disappointing because Brian Flores deserves to be the head coach there. Still, he's going to get a job somewhere else. I'm looking at New York. I'm looking at, Chicago, Houston, who's interested in him right now. But yeah, the Dolphins, I mean, you have no right to get rid of a guy like this because who are the Dolphins? Who have the Dolphins been since 2000? They haven't done nothing. Okay? They haven't done a thing. So for years leading up to it, since your last playoff appearance in 2016, nothing to show for it. Nothing good coming out of Miami. South Beach, it stunk. Brian Flores comes in, changes the fortunes of that franchise. If you gave him a longer leash, maybe the Dolphins, do things down the line. Nothing. So now David Culley, I'm looking at him and I'm saying to myself, why? Why did they do this? The Texans fired him after 4-13, like I said. But don't look at the record. Don't look at the 4-13 record. Don't look at the fact that the Texans were not a good team. It wasn't Culley's fault. He had nothing to work with, guys. Tell me right now who the worst roster is in the National Football League, and I'll show you the Houston Texans. He had nothing to work with. They gave him a 2-year deal, so they weren't even sold. He knew. We knew. They all knew that he was on a short leash. They weren't sold on him. And the fact is, they played hard. The Texans played hard every week. Even though they lost plenty of games, they played tough. And yet, I'm looking at the Motor City, and I'm seeing a guy in Dan Campbell, head coach. And I'm seeing the fact that they won one less game. They had 3 wins. Detroit did. 3 wins this year. Houston had 4. Okay. I'm sitting here. I'm saying to myself, wasn't the media and all these former players just praising Dan Campbell for what Detroit has done this year? Weren't they praising Dan Campbell, saying, oh my goodness, Dan Campbell, he has the Detroit Lions playing hard every single week. Despite the fact that they don't have a good roster, they are playing hard. They are something to watch moving forward. He's getting everybody to play strong, play hard for him in the locker room. Okay. The same can be said for David Culley in Houston. He has a worse roster than the one in Dan Campbell's Detroit. He has the worst ownership group. The job is not attractive at all. And yet, there's a double standard here because people are going off about Dan Campbell in Detroit, a team with less wins than the Houston Texans have. If you have less wins than the Houston Texans, something is wrong. Something is wrong. They're going off about how great the Lions have looked in games, playing tough. Same could be said in Houston, but no. They want to let him go. They want to let David Culley go. What? So, what I'm saying to you is we're comparing both of those guys. Why don't we hear Dan Campbell being fired? Why don't we hear a short leash for Dan Campbell? When the Lions have a better roster construction, they have more skilled players than the Houston Texans have, and still, we're gonna let David Culley go. One black coach remains. 122 head coaches have been hired since 2003, folks. Guess what? Only 19 of them are non-white. There's an issue. There's an issue. Black head coaches specifically. They want to talk about, okay, we're going to make this Rooney rule where teams are required to interview at least 2 external minority candidates for a head coaching job. Okay? That doesn't work. They give us those interviews as a little sticker. Here you go. Here's your interview. We're not really going to hire you, but here's the interview so that we could follow the Rooney rule. The Rooney rule is fake. It's fraudulent. It sucks. Doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't give us the opportunities. Yes, I know it had the intent of that, but the fact of the matter is all these 32 teams, they just give us token interviews. It's not real. They have another guy in mind. They're just coming in the door saying, yo, we're going to give you this interview because we have to follow a specific rule. Black coaches have a shorter leash. David Culley had a better record than the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, white head coach, and there's a double standard. I hate to make this about race, but it is at times. Okay? It's not fully about race, but there is definitely a racial component here because the same could be said about Dan Campbell. The Lions didn't do anything this year. Where is he? Why is he still in the building? And yet David Culley, he had the guys in a worse situation. Deshaun Watson, that cloud hanging over the Texans right now with all those allegations. He had to come in the door thinking he's going to have Deshaun Watson. Had to have Davis Mills, rookie. He thought he was going to have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Didn't happen. He thought that he would actually have more skilled guys, a more skilled group of guys. No, nobody wanted to play in Houston. He had to deal with the ownership issue, right? Because Houston does not have good ownership. He had to deal with this whole thing, all this drama, and still they managed to do things week by week, play tough, stay in games. This is the Houston Texans we're talking about. This team sucks. Let's call it for what it is. They suck. He had them being respectable. The Texans are the reason why Justin the Truth, like I call him, the Truth Herbert, is not in the playoffs right now. They beat the Chargers when the Chargers needed a W 2 weeks ago. They finished the year 2-2, the Texans did. And still, a short leash for him. And watch Dan Campbell have a few years down the line to change things in Detroit. You gave this man no time. Steve Wilkes in Arizona. Remember that? Josh Rosen. That wasn't the right pick. The Cardinals that year, they were terrible. Arizona did not have the talent. We thought, okay, maybe they're going to give him, some time to work this out, change the franchise. No, he was gone. Vance Joseph, Denver. Do you remember that? We thought they would give him more time. 1 year. All these guys gone after a year. So we're seeing David Culley and we're like, damn. Help us out here, guys. One black coach remains. Brian Flores has done it time and time again, looking good, making the Dolphins look like an actual playoff team for once. And yet, he's gone. He's going to get another job because he's that good, but he's gone. Who are the Dolphins to fire him? Who are the Dolphins? They should have allowed him to have more authority. And you know what? I'm looking at the time, guys. I'm probably not going to get to the NBA right now. But this is a more important issue because you're going to disrespect Brian Flores. Who were the Dolphins prior to Brian Flores? What, one fluke year with Adam Gase, one of the worst head coaches we've seen in the 21st century? One fluke year where y'all made the wild card and lost to the Steelers. Okay. 10-6, okay. But you haven't done anything. The Dolphins. If you look at the last after Dan Marino retired, what have the Dolphins done? Please help me out. Help me out right now. Nothing. And Brian Flores was on track to get this team headed in the right direction. They have a strong roster, a good group defensively. We probably would have seen more growth offensively as we move forward with Brian Flores at the helm. And no, they want to let go of him. 1-7 start. Y'all finished 8 of your last 9 games winning. They almost ran the table. You're going to let him go. Okay, cool. That makes sense. You didn't want to give him authority. He earned authority in that building. He did. He does. And you're going to let him go. Okay. That makes no sense to me. David Culley. He's set up for failure. He was set up by the Houston Brass for failure. We knew this. I'm looking at the Deshaun Watson issue. I'm looking at the dark cloud that is hanging over the Houston Texans franchise right now. There's a lack of talent. There is a drought there of talent. They are begging. Houston, we have a problem. We have no talent here. He had to deal with that. Managed to get 4 wins. If you could win 4 wins, if you could get 4 wins with the Houston Texans of 2021, you must be up for Coach of the Year consideration. I'm telling you that right now. With that roster, please. He helped the growth of Davis Mills, looking like one of the better rookie quarterbacks this year, and you're going to let him go. 1 year. You didn't give him a shot. We've seen this with Steve Wilkes. We've seen this with Vance Joseph. And yet you want to praise a guy in Detroit, Dan Campbell. Detroit has less wins than the Houston Texans. They have more talent than the Houston Texans. And we want to rave about what Dan Campbell has done, galvanizing the troops. Everybody in the locker room ready to play tough. Everyone out there on Sunday playing hard for Dan Campbell. And when we say this about David Culley, because the Texans did play tough for David Culley this year, at the same time, you want to fire him? And we want to praise Dan Campbell? There's a double standard, folks. There is a double standard. It has to change. And you want to talk about representation? Before I go, because I'm probably going to have to do a separate part to this episode, maybe a part 2, because I'm going long. But you want to talk about representation? Guys, the NFL is majority black. There are a plethora of African American players out there on the field every Sunday for all 32 teams. 70%. That's a lot. 70%. Every roster has 52 guys, 53 guys on the roster. 70% of the National Football League is black. We're in 2022. 3 head coaches are non-white as I speak to you right now. There are openings. I get it. Gerard Mayo, Brian Flores, like I spoke about, Leslie Frazier, Jim Caldwell, who deserves a job in this league. Jaguars, Bears, Houston, call him, please. Denver. All these guys are up for interviews. Eric Bieniemy. But as I speak to you right now, there's only 3 that are non-white head coaches. There is a pipeline where there are plenty of guys who are black or of other minority who can coach, and we've seen it, whether in their college, right? If they're in college right now, or if they're in the ranks in the NFL as a coordinator, we've seen it time and time again, guys. Look at the pipeline; it's there. All these guys are there, but we just don't know their names. And why? Why is this the case? None of them are getting hired. There's token interviews. Here, we're gonna give you an interview. We're not gonna hire you. We're not gonna hire you, but we're gonna interview you because there's something called the Rooney Rule that requires us to bring at least 2 worthy candidates in that are of minority. We're just gonna talk to you, pretend, act like we're gonna hire you. We're not gonna hire you. You want to talk about representation? I'll leave you on this note for this topic. 70% black is the National Football League players. There's one black head coach, one African American head coach right now, as I speak to you right now. Now, let's look at the NHL. If you look at the NHL, if you watch the NHL, who's out there on the ice all the time? It's more so Caucasian, right? There's white guys. Okay, cool, cool. Now, there's a few, there's a few black guys in the league. The number's slowly growing, but there's some black guys in the league. Okay, cool. Wayne Simmons, you're talking about PK Subban, you're talking about Evander Kane, even though that whole situation. Malcolm Subban, all these guys. I want to have you close your eyes and think about this. With the way the NHL looks, with the league being majority white, could you imagine if, let's say, 31 of the 32 teams in the NHL had a black head coach? Oh, wait. That Jelani, that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up because I see a lack of black players out there on the ice, and there's plenty of white guys here. So obviously you'd think there'd be, at least 5 white head coaches, right? At least 5. That's the NFL right now. That is the NFL right now. You could say all you want to say. You could say, Jelani, you're tripping, man. Jelani, this is not about race. You want to know something? That is the newest inductee in the Hall of Cap. Okay? That is extraordinary cap if you want to come tell me that I'm tripping, because I'm not. Look at the representation or the lack thereof. This is terrible. We are in 2022. My hope is that with the 7 to 8 head coaching openings right now in the NFL, I hope that we're going to end up having 4 hired. But the fact that we're even begging to get to the number 5 in terms of total African American head coaches in the National Football League in 2022, that is just disgusting. It's disgusting. It really is. So I want to leave you on that NHL note. Think of if the National Hockey League had majority black head coaches in a league that is dominant, a Caucasian dominant. Think about that. There's an issue. These guys are given a short leash, these black head coaches. So I don't know. I'm disappointed. I think the Dolphins made a great deal of trying to, say, hey, we still have the authority. Brian Flores doesn't. I think they made a huge mistake. A huge mistake because Brian can coach, guys. He changed the Dolphins, guys. I know they didn't make the playoffs yet, but they were on the track. They were on the right track to get there soon, either next year or the year after, guys. They've been irrelevant, the Dolphins have been, and still Brian Flores. David Culley, short leash. Given the worst situation in in football, maybe in the four major North American sports leagues right now. That's David Culley. I will continue with some NBA talks on RBTL.